I'd like to take a very quick moment to thank a few city staff people for their very swift response in a very trying moment. Dan Lindheim, our acting city administrator, thank you for your diligence and your effort. Chief Simon, a very outstanding fire chief. I believe we have one of the best fire chiefs in America, and his response has been extraordinary, professional, very thoughtful, and visionary. Raul Gardenas, our Public Works Director, thank you for your involvement and participation. Before we move on, I would just like to summarize. First, again, quickly, we come here against the backdrop of a very tragic death. As I said to a number of young people on the streets last night, I'm 73 years old. Why didn't this young person have the opportunity to live 51 more years? That is a great tragedy that has brought this community together, brought us together in grief, anger, frustration, and rage. We acted, and I'm very proud of the action that we took, which was to insert the city of Oakland into this investigation very aggressively and very assertively, and say anytime anyone is killed in Oakland, we have an imperative responsibility to step up and engage in an investigation. That has now triggered a number of relationships that have been responded to here today that I hope and believe will end up in an expeditious, complete investigation that will establish culpability. Now, even though we establish culpability, there's one very important factor. We'll never get this young person back, and that's tragic. At 1:30 this afternoon in the office of Attorney John Burroughs, who is the representative of the family in this situation, they had a press conference where John Burroughs, speaking for the family, said that the family does not wish their grief and this tragic loss of their son to be an excuse for violence in the community, that they do not support it, that they do not want it, that they do not embrace it, that they embrace a peaceful approach to this community. That's a powerful statement, because the community is saying, don't hustle my pain. That's an important statement that we have to make to each other. I understand the anger. I was out there last night. Felt it palpably. But simultaneous to that, we have to keep saying to each other that we are a community, and that somewhere along the way, Oakland's got to get it, that we've got to come together as one people. We've got to get out of the Bantu stands that we're in, where we continue to look at each other with jaundiced eye. We've got to be courageous enough and brave enough to speak not in a demagogic fashion, but to speak eloquently to the issue of the respect for human life, and not be selective in our outrage, but be outraged every time a human being loses their life in our community. This is one aspect of it. And that becomes an important, significant factor. I'm an old guy, but I was motivated by a guy, if he was still alive, would be older than me, Martin Luther King. He understood that nonviolence was not a tactic, it's an alternative way to live. And we cannot exploit other people's pain in order to inflict damage. Why suddenly we find ourselves in a particular community and we're prepared to inflict damage simply because we're there. We have to grow and be much more mature as human beings than simply acting out anger. Because acting out anger last night is no different from somebody today picking up a gun in anger and blowing someone else's brains out. So how we address each other, how we handle these issues, in my humble opinion, is teaching our children how to handle anger, how to handle pain, and how to handle difference. And it's not about beating up somebody's windshield. What does that have to do with justice? What we have to do is take all of that anger and harness it. And what I want to say to the young sister Echevarria, we stand with you. Because in this moment, damn it, we have to embrace each other. and the old guys and the young people have got to come together out of a great sense of respect for each other. We got to stop pimping and hustling each other, you know, and playing demagogic games with each other. This is a serious moment. And I'm going to be with you, and all of us are going to be with you in this moment. African American, Latino, and Asian, and white, and whatever the hell we are, we've got to come together as a community. And we've got to come together as a community beyond all these differences. You know, I came on for one reason, people, not to make friends, but to get it right, damn it. And this is what this has to be about in this moment. And I'm using that language because I feel passion. And I went home last night, man, I said, how did we get to this moment? I went home last night and said, 40-some years ago, here we are, still trashing cars. And there was a young, beautiful black woman that walked up to me last night, and she was crying. And she said to me, it could have been my son that was killed. And first, all I could do was just hold her and cry with her. But then I looked at her and I said, weren't you standing out here on this same corner a few weeks ago saying we can change the world? Weren't we standing here a few nights ago when Obama was elected and you looked at that same son and said, son, you can do anything? Don't let these few weeks rip that hope from your chest. Stay hopeful, and we cannot be victims. All right? So my message is, cool it out there, folks. This is not a game. It's not a dance. Harness that energy. If 40-some years later we're still jumping up and down and changing the venue of our protests instead of harnessing the energy to make significant institutional, political, and policy changes, it's about nothing. So let's take this moment. Let's take this moment to reach out to Echevarria and other sisters and brothers here who are looking for some kind of way to move forward in this. Because last night people said, when does it end? It ends when we give it every single thing that we have to make it end. And that's us coming together as a total community.